Hey, it's Jeff Zito, and thanks for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber podcast. You can stream wherever you listen to your podcast, whether it's Apple Music or Spotify. We're on them all. Our past episodes are up on celebrityjobber.com, and we talk to celebrities about their big break, whether it was an overnight success or something that happened gradually over time. Lisa Loeb had one of those overnight success stories, at least to you and I. She's told the story a lot because it kind of defined her career. But we're going to ask her to indulge us and tell us how it all started for her 30 years ago. It was August of 1994 that Lisa Loeb's song Stay, I Missed You hit #1. By the way, I think Lisa Loeb was the very first artist to go #1 without a record deal. I mean, that's truly indie. What was her first job? And what might Lisa Loeb be doing if Stay, I Missed You wasn't the huge hit it was? We're going to ask her all of those questions coming up next, as Lisa Loeb is my guest this week on Celebrity Jobber.
The Celebrity Jobber podcast with Jeff Zito. If you like what you hear, please subscribe. What if these celebrities weren't famous? What would they have become? What was their first job? We're about to find out.
Hello.
Good morning, Lisa. How are you?
I'm good. I wish I were where you are. I'm like, this is one of my favorite places to go.
Really? So where do you spend most of your time these days?
Well, I live in Los Angeles, but right now I'm in Dallas. I spend a lot of time in Dallas visiting my family, and I'm on the road. I hate when people are like, I like to say, but I am going to say it. I feel like I travel a lot for a mom, but not as much for a musician.
So
I travel. I've been playing a lot of concerts and on the road, and it's that's what I love to do.
But tell me, the climate is probably similar in Los Angeles. Tampa, Los Angeles traffic probably a little different, but a lot of similarities between the two, I would say.
Yeah, sometimes I can find a big sky somewhere, but I mean, I like actually going to St. Pete's, and I have a friend who's got this place called 7C Music, and it's a music store and it's a venue, and I want to go play there so badly. But the beach is there, and oh my gosh, I just love visiting.
Well, I gotta help get you down here because we would love to have you down here. That would be great.
Let's do it. And we were playing, I think when I played with Weasel Zappa, I think we were the first people, or maybe not first people, to play at the aquarium.
Oh, really?
Right?
Really?
Yeah, in Tampa?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the fans in Florida are just amazing. People really get in deep into the music. It's funny, like I remember back when the internet was starting in the 90s, some of literally they would call themselves my #1 fans down in Florida. And it was just always so great to be able to visit down there. And my hair, it gets very curly.
It does. Yes, so does mine. Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, Lisa, back in the 90s, I was living in Sarasota, Florida, and I was a big fan of yours. And I know you've probably have told this story a million times, but I was just kind of going over your quote unquote big break, if you will, because it seemed like you were just, kind of in the local scene, doing some stuff up in the Northeast. I know you're from Maryland. You spent a lot of time in Dallas or in Texas, but then you moved up to the Northeast for some college. Yeah. But tell me about that big break, and I thought it was a great story.
Yeah, I had one of those 20 years overnight successes. Because it was like I started writing music when I was 6 years old, and then by the time I was maybe in early high school, I was playing guitar and writing music with lyrics, and the class was performing original songs at the graduation, and went to college, had a band, wrote tons of music and made records, graduated college, moved to New York. And then a couple years in, I met, through another actor friend, Josh Hamilton, I met Ethan Hawke, who's an actor, of course. And there's just a big group of us that hung out together in New York. And Ethan had a theater company, and I'd write the music for the plays. And, we had great people, so many great actors and people involved in that. And along the way, Ethan was shooting a movie called Reality Bites. And so he asked originally he asked if I would write a song for the movie, for his band in the movie. And a bunch of people do that. So I wrote it. Somebody from the Violent Femmes wrote a song, and Dave Pirner's song ended up being the song they play in the movie. But he asked me for an original song that he really liked of mine called Stay, I Missed You. And I was just recording that song for some record companies who were interested. And the song, Ben Stiller, who was directing the movie, and all the people in charge of actually putting the music into the movie, they decided to put it on the soundtrack.
Wow.
The movie.
That summer, Lisa, that song,
1994.
You just couldn't get away from it. It was the biggest song on the radio and on TV. And it's so funny, though. Ethan Hawke's your neighbor. You're kind of friends. Yeah. He's in the beginning of his career. You're in the beginning of your career. And then Reality Bites. Who knew that movie would be what it was, too, even though it was a great cast.
At the time, I was like, well, of course, a friend passes a song along. He passed a number of our friends' music along because we're a bunch of musicians in the group. But in retrospect, it was really a magical time, it was fun while we were there also, but Ethan asked if he could direct the video. And the record company was sort of on the fence, but then I think they were excited that they had a movie star directing the video. That was cool.
Yes.
To have a movie star. But actually the cool part was that he had an idea that we should shoot it all in one take with no edits. And that really, I think, connected me and the song with the audience, being able to sing directly into the camera. And it's funny because then later, many times, even recently on that 90s show, they recreated the video and they used it in a fun parody way, which I love. So you've made it when they
no doubt about it. When you're getting parodied, you've definitely have made it. So tell me, Lisa, you said you were writing songs when you were 6 years old. You tell me this amazing story about how you really got, your big break. Who knew that all these things were going to happen? But your parents, growing up in Texas, they were, they had pretty good jobs. They had regular gigs. I think you're
a doctor, and my mom was a homemaker. There's 4 siblings in our family. So she had the job that I often do, where you're driving around your kids, music lessons and ice skating and piano and, you name it.
What was your first job ever? What was it? First paying job?
Gosh, first paying job. I feel like my real first paying job, I was a DJ. I was a radio DJ in high school. We had a FM radio station. I went to the boys' school. I went to the girls' school, but at the boys' school, St. Mark's, where actually I think Boss Skaggs went, and so did Miller and Rhett Miller and the Owen brothers for a little bit. But anyway, at St. Mark's, they had their own radio station, 88.5 KRS. And I was a DJ there, and I'd play all this music. They didn't pay me, but what I did do is I used to DJ parties.
Okay.
Back in the 80s, and I got paid very well.
Yes.
And I would DJ parties, and I got to bring... I had relationships with the record stores in town, and they would give me promo posters and things to give away and buttons.
So, Lisa, did mom and dad encourage you in your music career, or did they try to steer you into like, hey, have a backup plan, maybe go to college and do this?
Early on, they encouraged me as parents, take music lessons. I took piano lessons twice a week for a lot of my life, and then switched to guitar. They encouraged me and my interests, and I'm a dancer as well as an actor, and I did all these things, and they were very encouraging. I had a popular band in college with my friend Elizabeth Mitchell. We had a band called Liz and Lisa. Almost every show was packed. And my parents after college were like, well, what are you going to do when you grow up? And I'm kind of like, remember all those shows you came to see and the cassette tapes we're selling and all that? Like, that's actually what I'm doing. I'm going to be a musician. And I think they were very hesitant. But then, when they start seeing you on TV, it switches a little bit.
I would imagine.
Yeah, they were like, what's your day? I actually went back to school for psychology, for grad school, for like a year, and then realized, I love this so much that if I'm going to do this, I need to do this full time. But first, let me just work on this music thing for a minute. And then, Reality Bites happened, and I was already playing gigs a bunch in New York City, and things were moving forward.
How did your life change immediately after Reality Bites? Like when that point in time was actually going on and you were Lisa Loeb, kind of, popular with your group of friends, in the village or wherever. How did your life change like immedially?
I think the weight lifted slightly. There's a heavy weight when you graduate from college or when you're around that age. And I knew what I wanted to do when I grew up. I wanted to do many things, but one of the big things was to be a musician. And so back in the early 90s, to get a record deal was kind of like getting a real job. You know, you got a job. You know, I also knew to take it with a grain of salt because I had a lot of great advisors around me who said, you know, getting a record deal isn't everything and you got to watch out and all the other things, because we had all seen Behind the Music on VH1. I don't know if that was out yet, but, you know, like, I got a lot of warnings. So I took it with a grain of salt. But at the same time, I think that took the weight off slightly. And it was just exciting. You know, I had a lot of friends around me that I've had my whole life. We've always been big fans of music, so we were able to enjoy it. And at the same time, when you're in the middle of it, you're just continuing to work and write songs and tour and do all the stuff.
Right.
So I was lucky I had the friends to help me slow down enough every once in a while to say, like, wow, this is happening, you know, like, this is so exciting.
You said something pretty important there, though, which I find interesting. When you were, you know, I kind of compare getting a record deal to becoming, you know, a pro athlete, you know, making it to the big leagues, if you will. And you know, people are telling you, like, hey, you know, that's cool, live your dream, but what are you going to really do if you don't make it to the big leagues? Did you ever plan on, you know, if you didn't get a record deal, if you weren't on Reality Bites, were you thinking, like, maybe I'll teach music, maybe I'll go off in this direction or that direction in music?
Yeah, I think that's what going to grad school at NYU for psychology, I was really, really interested in studying the brain, neurology, and that was really interesting. And I sort of kept that in my back pocket as something I thought, well, maybe that might be interesting. I also really wanted to be an actor, and I grew up doing a lot of acting and taking a lot of acting classes and, you know, doing all the acting-y things. So I think I had that also I thought I would do, but music just kept coming more naturally and the opportunities kept coming up. So, you know, I always, you know, even now, I'm always thinking about what do I really want to do. There's a lot of things I'm doing right now.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned that, Lisa. What are some of the things you are doing these days? Well,
I do have a daily radio show on Sirius XM 90s on 9. Again, it goes way back to when I was a kid, you know, in high school on the radio. And I always wanted to have I was interviewed once years ago for the Oprah Winfrey Network on a show. They came to the house. They had beautiful lighting, wonderful segment. And then I found out the show was called Where Are They Now? And I was like, oh, really? That's not what you're going to call it. You know, I was like, Oprah, come on. It was me and Isaac Mizrahi and, like, people who, you know, are constantly making new things and doing things. And so I always thought it'd be clever to say where they are now. So I created a show and a segment and a podcast on Sirius called Where They Are Now. And I interview a bunch of people who, like Leanne Rimes, Weird Al, I don't know, you name it, the lead singer of Candlebox, Bush, you know, all the bands who are still doing things today. You know, some people are actors or people who've written books. So I like to shine a light on that with my Sirius XM show. And then in addition to that, yeah, I still tour a lot. I still put out records. You can always find my newest music wherever you find your music, or you can go to YouTube, Lisa Loeb official YouTube, and watch the music, which a lot of people like to do. I have a whole separate career in family-friendly music with a brand new record coming out right now called That's What It's All About. And I tour a lot, and I get to go on tour with either me by myself solo, or like right now, I'm doing some shows with Straight No Chaser, which is a great a cappella group. And they've done a lot of 90s songs, and so they thought it would be fun to bring some people who people know from the 90s but are still playing today.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And when you're not working, you know, you're being a mom, what do you do to unwind and have fun? What's your passion outside of music?
Oh, my gosh. There's so many things I love. Well, I have to do small things, too, like the crossword puzzle, the New York Times crossword puzzle. I love.
Right.
You know, I'm trying to watch more TV. I have been doing strength training since I was like 17 years old. Not the crazy kind where you're throwing kettlebells around, but like,
right.
I love doing a walking. I love hanging out with my friends. I read a ton. And I also listen to a lot of books on tape. They're not on tape anymore, I know, but with all the driving I do in Los Angeles. And I love to travel. My family and I, we just traveled to Japan for fun.
Oh, that sounds like great.
We go there for work.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like a lot of places I've gone for work, and now I'm like, well, let's bring the kids and make fun up, have fun with it.
Well, I know you want to get back to St. Pete, and I would love, to see you here in St. Pete. So maybe that'll happen one day in the near future.
Yeah,
but
we'll get some fried shrimp. We'll put our feet in that clear blue water. I painted the walls of my bedroom that color. It looks like you're looking through that clear water to that white sand.
It's crazy. And I know this perfect hole-in-the-wall dive where you can get that fried shrimp and fried clams, fried scallops, and it's cheap.
I think that we're talking about the same place.
I think we are. It's like right on Gandy. It's called the Crab Shack. It's a great place.
I think we're talking about the same place.
Lisa, it's been such a great conversation with you, and I was always such a big fan of that song, Do You Sleep? And pleasure talking to you today.
Oh, thank you.
So I wanted to talk about a few interesting parts of this interview. For one, when I asked her the question how her life immediately changed after the success of the song Stay, I Missed You, I thought she was going to say something like, I was recognized on the street a lot more. I was playing gigs in front of a lot more people. She didn't say that. She said her life changed drastically following the success of that song because she felt like a weight was lifted. The pressure was off as far as becoming a successful musician. I thought that was really interesting for some reason. And of course, her big break, if you will, was, her friend Ethan Hawke, who was, a small-time actor at the time. They were friends. She would write music for his plays, and then he was working on a film. He asked her for a song. She gave him a song. He gave it to his director, which was Ben Stiller. The film was Reality Bites, and boom, she became an overnight success. But it was kind of funny. She said to me, the overnight success that, was kind of 20 years in the making. She said she started writing music when she was 6 years old. So by the time she was 26, this happened to her. So in her mind, it really wasn't as much of an overnight success as the public kind of perceived it to be. And let's talk about Lisa's very first job. She was a radio DJ for her high school's radio station. I thought that was pretty cool. That didn't pay her, but she did get quite a bunch of gigs, DJing local parties and gigs. Lisa primarily grew up in Texas. Her mom was a stay-at-home mom, and her father was a doctor, a gastroenterologist. And even though Lisa talked about, her parents not being in show business, they did support her when she was younger with her music and her acting and her dancing. Lisa said as a backup, she did go to college to study psychology. She was really interested in the brain, so she may have gone off into, somewhat of a medical direction like her dad. And I guess her parents did kind of question music as she got out of college, asking her, like, what are you going to do now that you're all grown up and graduated? And she was like, all these shows you're coming to and seeing all the people paying to watch me play my music, well, that's kind of what I am going to do. Then, of course, when she got her big break and was on TV and radio, became a lot of an easier pill for mom and dad to swallow when they saw her daughter's fame. Some other business endeavors for Lisa. She launched an eyewear collection, also sells a brand of coffee. She talked about her radio show and podcast on Sirius XM and touring with the a cappella group Straight No Chaser. You can see a bunch of tour dates and some new music from Lisa Loeb on her website, which is lisaloeb.com. That's lisaloeb.com. It seems like Lisa's a real big fan of the Tampa St. Pete area, so maybe we'll see her down this way in the not so distant future. Another episode of Celebrity Jobber, where you can check out past episodes on celebrityjobber.com. You can also follow me on Instagram, Celebrity Jobber Podcast, and the YouTube channel is youtube.com/the@Celebrity Jobber. You can stream wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Who knows, if not for Lisa Loeb's big break, she may have been a psychiatrist or a radio DJ, maybe the female Howard Stern. As she mentioned, radio was her very first job. It's Jeff Zito. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Celebrity Jobber. I'll see you next week.